What's up, everyone? My name is Andy Coronado, and tonight I'm joined by my partner in crime, Elias Grigoriadis. How are we doing, dude?
I'm exhausted because it's been a
Let's.
wonderful weekend of soccer. But other than that, I'm doing great.
We're as tired as we can get, but we love doing this. We enjoy this, and we'll go Monday after Monday because we just can't stop. Welcome
Because I
to
have no life.
episode 259 of the Ball is Round. We got a loaded show for you tonight, Ball is Rounders. Coming up, we'll break down Roses FC upcoming season, CF Montreal's second win of the season, and finally, FC Supra's first loss. Finally. FC Supra's first loss of the season. How can we say finally to that? At home. But first, we got a special guest joining us tonight. Please join us in welcoming award-winning journalist, commentator with CBC Sports, and co-host of the Burn It All podcast, Shireen Ahmed, who's here with us tonight to help preview Roses FC's 2026 season. How are we doing tonight, Shireen?
Bonsoir, everybody. Good. I'm excited. We are kicking off season 2 of the NSL this week. So, I love that. Like, I'm exhausted. That will be me on Monday, I think. That will be me on Monday. I'm on adrenaline right now.
Yeah, we're all exhausted, and it's April. I can't wait. You know.
So wait, we're gonna be more tired than this? That's what you're telling us, Shireen? After the season? Oh boy, can't wait.
Yeah, it's a really great year. It's a year, Men's World Cup is coming. NSL is not taking a hiatus. They're going to play through, so we will have soccer, Canadian soccer, like every day. It's going to be amazing.
Let's go. All right, so we're gonna dive right into the Rose FC preview. But first, we wanna take advantage that Shireen is here and obviously ask her a few questions about the Northern Super League in general, right? So let's start with the Northern Super League's inaugural 2025 seasons. There were plenty of storylines that developed over the years. Some positives, some challenges. From your perspective, how would you summarize the league's first season overall?
So there's always going to be ebbs and flow. There's always going to be some bumps, and I thought retrospectively, being part of the talks ahead of season 2, I thought season 1 was really good when it was happening, like the final, the emotions, but a lot of that was really psychosocial. A lot of it was, we can't believe we have a domestic women's league. It's a long time coming. We're the only top 10 ranked FIFA nation that doesn't have one. So there was a lot of that, the players feeling emotions about playing at home. We're in season 2 now. So that emotion, it's not new anymore. It's not a shiny new thing. So we have to approach it in the way of being like not critical, but being, offering feedback and looking at what needs to be built. And I definitely know, because I've spoken to a lot of people at the league, that's the way they're looking at it. Like, how can we improve? Because there's no doubt that there's a lot of things that need improving. So what does that look like from a broadcast perspective, player development perspective? What does it look like in terms of sustainability? What does that look like in terms of marketing and developing communities, supporting those supporters groups? So we're still building. It's like the second year of something really special. So those are initial thoughts.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that I think, Elias, when we covered Rose FC last year, I think Robert Rossatoyo, head coach for Rose FC, at some point said, you know what, when I talked to other coaches on the sideline, we're all looking around the stadium and saying, whoa, it's crazy. We did not think it was going to be this big this soon. But it did take Canada by storm, the NSL. So now there's obviously 2026. How does this, how can the league take the next step? Because in the case of at least Montreal, there's also a new team in town, right? There's the FC Supra de Quebec that are playing in the CPL. But
Yeah.
how does the NSL make that second season and make it that much, if not as good as 2025, better in 2026?
So what I love about particularly the Roses is that people across Canada, and when I speak and I've covered this issue, even at the senior women's national team level, people sleep on Quebec when it comes to footballers.
Mm.
And they have a tendency to think Vancouver, Toronto, GTA, that kind of thing. Um, if you look historically at the national team, and if you look at those teams, I was thrilled that Roses were, one of the first markets that were announced because of the importance of women's soccer in Quebec and girls soccer in Quebec. It is so important. Not just if we look at youth sport and the strength there, if we look at women's sport in general. And for me, I knew Montreal wasn't going to have a problem with it. I mean, like, travel to and from stadium locations and what it looks like and whether it's easily accessible, especially with the construction in Montreal. Those are other questions we could do a whole other segment about, right? Like, you
Yeah,
all
let's go.
I know in Toronto, we could just do an entire podcast episode on traffic,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
and what that looks like, but I knew that all the markets like Halifax, it's like banging in Halifax, like, Jocelyn arguably is the best mascot. There's no question, like,
Yeah.
and I think one of the beauties, the beautiful things about this is that it's showcasing regional love for soccer in Canadian context. And there was no doubt in my mind that Montreal was going to come out like rain, sleet, snow. We had every single weather possible for, for Montreal to play in, like right across the board. So those players that are coming from California, those players that are coming from like all over the place, it's a time to say to them, yeah, this is what it looks like and this is what the seasons are going to be. So that, that's the funny thing, like even in media day when I'm talking to players that have come from, the United States, to be like, how are they doing in Ottawa or how are they doing in Montreal market? So like that's kind of funny. But yeah, be prepared to play in the snow because y'all did in the semifinals.
Yeah, there was the
Yeah, and
canceled game last year, the postponed game. One day, the
Postponed,
Roses FC
postponed.
to Toronto
Yeah,
because of the snow, and it
because of the snow.
messed everything up. But no, I mean, look, we'll just do one last question here about the NSL in general. So before we dive into Roses FC, so as the league heads into the second season, what areas do you think? I know you touched on it already a little bit, but what areas do you think are most important for the NSL to focus on? Whether it's maybe fan engagement, player development, media visibility. You talked about media day, financial sustainability to really, really solidify its place in the Canadian soccer landscape.
People need to watch soccer on television. People need to tune into the streams. This is what I'm going to say. This is actually homework for not like people who are already watching and engaging. I don't have any, the fans have not surprised me. I think they're incredible coast to coast. I will tell people to start watching on television. We need our broadcast numbers up because then people are like, well, the broadcast numbers weren't great. We know the product is fantastic and we know people that will engage, but like there's also measures from, let's just say, DoorDash. They have encouraged people and like small and medium restaurants to show it on television. Put the NSL on television is that, in my opinion, is one of the priorities. I mean, this is definitely a conversation to have with, Christina Litz, but from where I'm sitting, we need people to watch us. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on the CBC broadcast, watch us, please. But the amount of love and passion and hard work that goes behind this, like, is really, it means a lot to a lot of people. Um, and we do this because we love it and we're proud to do it, like very proud to do it. So, you know, those are, and for those of you out here going, "Oh, there's so much money." Listen, there still could be a lot more money in women's sports. So
100%. Yeah, and it's evolving. I think the Canadian government has also announced the different programs, a different direction. And here in Montreal, Elias, we see it. We're seeing it that the Montreal government is starting to put more focus on soccer in general, which is always a breath. But Elias, have you noticed the change from 2025, 2026, like the attention to women's soccer? I mean, Elias actually coaches a girls soccer team. Have you noticed the impact that Rose FC has had on the city?
yeah, I mean, they're out there, right? That's the thing. They're out there in a way that CF Montreal is not necessarily. CF Montreal is out there in a much more corporate facing kind of way because
Hmm.
again, they are, they are
The
more institutionalized, I guess. But you have Roses holding, you know, soccer camps, and you have actual players there training with little girls. That's great like initiative. You've got I think there was a bunch of Roses at the Supra game, right? And so again, it's more about just being out there physically, because again, the we talk about this all the time, but it's still a very grassroots soccer culture and soccer community. And so that work doesn't go unnoticed. People appreciate that, and people really take that into account when they try to identify with clubs. Like, oh yeah, I know Roses. I just, I had a conversation with a player while my kid was at their soccer camp, right? Like it's that kind of feeling of belonging. And I think that's another reason that, like you mentioned, right, that Quebec gets such love on the national scale, and is maybe even a little bit slept on. I mean, shout out to Sporting Montreal that just won the national futsal championship, and they've got national team representatives, right? The team that went to the futsal World Cup is like 75% Quebecois. So again, this is like, this is a real soccer culture, and this is a real like Shireen just said, right? Just because Vancouver and Toronto gets more eyeballs doesn't mean that the majority of the quality, or a decent amount of the quality, comes from Quebec.
And we actually have a question, a very interesting question from Slonia. Do you think the Canadian government should be investing more into Canadian Sports League, or is it more private investment needed, or both? Shireen, I'll let you take a bite at that.
Both, and levels of government, definitely. I I think it's really important. I do think the Canadian government has done a disservice to women's sports in Canada, and we're talking about when we say sports leagues, Andy, I'm gonna be specific and say women's.
Mm.
Um, I think that there's always room for in private investment. I'm never gonna say no to it. I think it's really important. But at the same time, I think that there's opportunities for investment and growth. The product is excellent. Like we see that in ownership groups, like more people coming on board. Those are the things that I think, like Andre DeGrasse is like one of the owners. He's like a sports hero in this country. Like I think that stuff's really important. And particularly at a time like this, like, PWHL is in its 3rd season, and the effect that Victoire has on Montreal doesn't go unnoticed. In fact, the launch parties for Roses and, Victoire is there. Those players know each other, and to be able to, and I know for a fact, I've interviewed Dinah Matheson so many times. Jana Hefford is one of the people she picks up the phone to call. So people who are in those spaces who know sport, who know women's sport, who knows what it means, they rely on each other. And we're still seeing the benefits of that. But at the same time, I will say this, women in this country have done phenomenal things on the pitch and off without the full support that they could have been getting. So I would like to see way more support privately and publicly.
I actually, when we had Annie Larouche on the show a few weeks back, and that was one of the questions I asked her. How was it the first year? And she's like, she told me, I was actually surprised by the amount of calls I received from interested investors in the team. So that's telling, Shireen. That's telling to me that, in the sense that, hey, people actually believe in this product. And you're talking about Samuel Piette, who is a CF Montreal player, legend amongst here in the city. Maxime Crépeau, also a very well named. These are
Oh
people that are
yeah,
actually
Campo's
in.
also, yeah.
They're
Yeah.
interested in the growth of this sport in this city, but also the league itself. They believe in it, and the numbers don't lie. It is increasing drastically every year, not just in the NSL, in a worldwide. So if the government or private investors don't take notice, I mean, it's time, right? Because it's and not just soccer, but in general women's sport. So what I want to now, we want to go into Rose FC, and I do want to do one last little thing, Elias. I'm sure you've seen this too. When we've gone to CF Montreal games or other sports, even FC Supra, there's always been that not a one person. There's actually been a few people that are wearing Roses FC gear in the game, in the other teams, and that's a huge thing of branding. Elias, what was our reaction on this show when we saw the kit release for Roses FC? We tripped out. We said, "Wow,
It's still the
I
best
want
kit.
to."
It's still probably the best kit in the country, all professional levels combined. For me, it's that and the
Elias.
Vancouver FC Cherry Blossom kit. Those are the two best kits in the country by far for me.
Yeah,
You
I
mean the
mean, and
Rise FC's Cherry Blossom kit?
Oh, do they?
Vancouver
Oh, they
Rise?
also have one. They just dropped one that's also fantastic. But
So
I was talking about
theirs is not
Vancouver
Cherry
FC used to
Blossom. Theirs
have
is
one.
a, yeah. Oh, sorry. Vancouver's day night, like the nighttime sky one that they
Mhm.
just released. I love that one. And yes, I will tell you this: the first merchandise I purchased from NSL, I need to stop because it's too much. Like I'm poor now at this point. Is the first thing I got was a
example.
Montreal Roses stuff. I got earrings for a niece of mine who's from Montreal but now lives in London. I got a
Nice.
scarf. I got socks, mostly because Amy Walsh threatened me, but I'm just kidding. But
Classic.
also because,
It's
which is
okay, Amy.
fair.
We support you.
But it was so exciting to be able to do that. Like I think even the thrill of me going online and being able to purchase something from
Mhm.
Montreal. And low key, like historically, my favorite sport teams have always been from Montreal. So I felt like that was true. I'm not saying I have a favorite NSL team. I'm absolutely not saying that. I think I love everybody equally.
Stink. It's
I'm
okay.
from
You can tell us
Halifax.
off
So I have
air.
this, well, I mean, come on. Like, and honestly, one of the things I love about the Roses in particular is that the office is really easy to work with. Like, if you call Annie Larouche, you need something, you
Yeah.
call the offices, like you want to talk to someone in comms, like it's really easy. And the players are wonderful to talk to. Megan Sauvé is literally one of my favorite. I wrote a column a couple of weeks ago about the preview to the second season and how effortless she is, but she's always talking about not just soccer Canadian, she talks about soccer in Montreal. And I think that is actually that that is key here to talk about and amplify the talent regionally across this country. And it is so important in Quebec, and she does it effortlessly in both languages. So, like, that's fantastic, and I wanna see more, and, Chloe Menas is the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna jump a little bit ahead because I know this
No.
is one of the questions, but Lisa
Good.
Petersky, okay,
Yeah.
coming to Roses and coming because of like, I feel like that Tanya Boychuk and she are besties. So,
Yeah.
that is so much fun, and having her even the experience of, like, players understanding what soccer is like in different places across the country is a huge thing. It's like almost like you're an exchange student into a different part of soccer in the country, and they're learning what soccer means to people in Montreal and in Quebec, and that, I think, is really important.
And that's one of the things that when I spoke to Coach Robert Rossitoyo and Elias, we've been at practice together. I spoke to him. He told me, I make it a point to make sure that, well, it's not a him thing, right? We make it a point at Rose FC to make every player comfortable, make them feel at home, make everybody, you know, like not force anybody, but naturally feel happy, so that people naturally have that chemistry, with all, which obviously translates into the field. And we'll get into that because we do have to talk about 2025 season, unfortunately, which didn't end well for Rose FC. But um, but that is something that they put a lot of emphasis in Montreal, like, making sure that chemistries work. Because especially now, and we'll look at this in a second, is the new players that have just joined the team. There's a lot of international players that don't speak
Yeah.
French, don't might not necessarily understand of, we have Jerim Kang and
Mhm.
Choi that don't either speak French or English. So it's a whole thing where these players that already know the NSL, the language, are actually working with them, and they do a lot of activities together. But let's get right into it. Elias, if you can just go ahead and pop up the Roses FC roster as of today. We don't know if they'll sign anybody in the next hour or tomorrow, but as you guys can see, the goalie room looks the same. We have Gabriel Lambert, Anna Karpenko, Anna Marie Laroche, and on the defenders we have Stephanie Hill, Haley Whitaker, Lucy Capadonna, Olivia Mbala, and Valerie Seto, who just signed a week ago, and Julia Leas, who we will talk about in a bit. In the midfield, we have Charlotte Bibot, Lisa Pechersky, which I always mess up her name, Chloe Minas, Mara Bouchard, Evelyn Badou, Laurie Thibault, and Felicia Roy. And in the attack, we have Megan Sauvé, Tanya Boychuk, Noemi Paquin, Hanbin Choi, Claire Monyard, Elise Bennett, Marilou Harvey, and Charin Kang. All right, so when we look at this roster, Elias, I'll start with you. With this revamped, and the word revamped is, it's kind of revamped, not that much, but there have been a lot of players that have left and a lot of players that have come in. Um, Kickoff is a week away. What's your overall impression of this squad? And do you feel that they've taken a step forward compared to last year?
Yes and no, because I feel like they've been very good at targeting specific areas that were problematic for them, namely, in the final third, because this was still a top team defensively. They were able
Mhm.
to control the ball when they needed to, but it came to that being clinical in front of goal that was really an issue. Getting someone like Elise Bennett to kind of maybe take a significant chunk of the workload off of Tanya Boychuk's plate, because I still think I still think she plays better playing off another striker than maybe as a lone nine up top. I think that's a really great pickup. And you have someone like Lisa Pechersky who right away, I mean, you saw how good she was in Vancouver, but right away she fits like a hand in a glove into this kind of system that Robert Rosa Toyu is going to be utilizing. And those kinds of signings I'm very happy about. On the other hand, people like Hanbin Choi and Evelyn Badu, we have not seen at all.
At
Hanbin
all.
Choi showed up to training camp with an ankle injury and has, you know, suffered a couple setbacks and still hasn't even fully trained with the team. And then Evelyn Badu is has some paperwork issues. She was at, I believe it was a friendly tournament organized with the Ghanaian national team, and then the women's AFCON was canceled.
Mhm.
So she was, with the national team, and they're trying to sort out just the bureaucracy behind it all. Um, and so she hasn't even got the chance to come to the facilities and train with the group yet. So those are two significant parts of your off season that you are complete question marks now. So I'd love to kind of get to see both of them, how they interact with the team and how they fit into what Robert Rosatoy wants to do before labeling this a successful or a missed offseason. But then you also have someone like Anne-Marie Seto, who is a super talented futsal player and who has this kind of flair that you don't normally see at center back. But Robert Rosatoy is going to be playing with a three back this year, and one of the most excited people about that is actually Stephanie Hill, because she sees her wingback get the chance to step forward and she's like, oh, I get to go too now. And so I think you see that on both sides, because Seto, who's really good with the ball and who kind of just like steps into midfield almost at will and is taking on forwards, in a way that you don't normally see from center backs, is going to be a really interesting kind of dynamic that the center backs bring. Because again, we've seen Stephanie Hill and what she could bring offensively, but now when you have center backs on both sides of what I'm assuming is going to be Lucy Capadonna in the middle, is going to be really cool. It's going to be a very different kind of team defensively, and I'm very curious, but at the same time, we haven't really had the chance to look at all these other teams and who've obviously improved as well. So I think that they've done a good job in getting the starting 11 up to another level, and now it's more about putting all the pieces together in a way that maybe enables what Robert Rosatoy wants to do to actually succeed.
And I agree with that. I agree with what Elias said. I'll point this out that I really like that their midfield, they actually brought in Marilu Harvey, who's 16 years old, and she does not look a step behind anybody. She is really, when you speak, Shireen, about talent in Quebec, bringing in a 16-year-old midfielder forward is daring, and it's
She's actually one of the
important.
fastest players on the team.
It's so necessary, and and being surrounded with somebody like Charlotte Bibot is so important for her development. And as well, defense. I was kind of surprised with the signing this week. It means, to me, it's a sign that maybe Julia Lea's injury might be a little bit more worrisome than we originally thought.
It is a long-term injury. It's a
And that's
long-term injury.
worrisome. That's not good, because that's the second season, Elias, that this happens. It happened last season, 2025. She missed a big chunk of the season, and she's very talented. When she's on the field, she's incredibly talented. But now it's the second season, and she's getting a long-term injury. So obviously and in forward, as you mentioned, Elias, a lot of situations that are question marks that this is what essentially doomed them in 2025, was the attack. The attack, injuries. Noemi Paquin picked up a knock. Laurie Tobo, Tanya Boychuk. We have the story of Abdu that left. I forgot her name. Sorry. And
Latifah Abdu.
Latifah Abdu. Jesus, I'm sorry, guys. It's Monday. Latifah Abdu left the team, and so a lot of things that happened that you don't want the season to start the same way. You want it to, as I mentioned, take a step forward. Shireen, how do you see this Roses FC roster for the next season?
Well, I agree on a couple things, most of it, particularly about the injuries and those who sustain knocks. I mean, you can't prevent that or necessarily predict that kind of thing, right? So, and there was, across the board, there was injuries, ACL tears. I mean, the captain of Rise, Shannon Waller, was out with the rest of the season, and Samantha Chang had to step in. And now Sam Chang moved to Toronto, and she's out in preseason with an ACL tear. I don't know if she'll miss the entire season, but she's gone for now. So injuries are arguably, I will start kind of at the top and sort of say, look, when you've got Charlotte Bilbao there leading, there's something about experience in a league, and having that experience is really helpful, and she can be a guiding light. And she was the first re-signing into after the first season was Bilbao. I remember when it came out that she was the first one, because there is an incredible use for that wisdom and that experience, which is really great that the club values, and it should. And in terms of, you're saying, the system that Coach Robert uses, I think it's really important to understand that you do your best to put in your players with their strengths within that system. We saw Stephanie Hill was like we were hugely impressed with her because it's almost like she kept getting better and better and better, and that's what you want. You don't want your team peaking in June. You want them peaking in like October. And
100%.
I thought Montreal started off strong. In fact, they won the first match at BMO, like against AFC Toronto. But the thing here is consistency, and you can't predict things like Abdul leaving. You can't predict that. What you can do is get in with people, like you said, signing younger. Felicia Roy is also 19. I think she's 19, but getting youth because you've got players in different markets that are much younger. Like if you have young players in Toronto, if you have young players in Halifax, for example. So being able to balance that out is really important. I think Boychuk plays with a particular fire in her belly that I love. I really love. And I agree with you. I think Paczurski will come, and she was a playmaker. She was a stalwart on Rise. And to have her and that game IQ come into Roses and come into that system and be able to execute. I do agree with Elias. I think the attacking third is somewhere that needed to be some attention, some special attention. Let's
Yeah.
just say Elise Bennett, I think, will fill in that gap to that degree. I think that having people up top, and there's also something to be said about confidence as a squad coming into a second season. They know what it's like. So many of the players, all of the players, not so many, all of them were dealing with unknowns. What will the league look like? They know what the league looks like. So you can kind of put that aside and focus very much on the play, which I think is something that last year with the excitement, the media, the nerves, the emotions, all of those things are very tangible. But for them to be able to like focus on, I actually came into the season thinking Anna Karpenko was the strongest keeper in the league. Like watching her play, she had national team call ups. Um, Again, getting knocks, again, having to deal with injuries, like, like, I think the consistency piece again is gonna be really, really important, and hopefully the Roses can, like, stay at that level. The table doesn't always reflect accurately how the season felt and should have gone, right? Because 'Cause you're right, Montreal was ended up 4th in the table, which is when you look at the entire season, that kind of in some ways to some people would feel unjust. But it is what it is. The numbers don't lie, right? So we'll see what happens. And I think coming into the second season with a lot of confidence, renewed identity that they're creating, like team identity, is going to be really, really important. I'm really interested to see. I also Cherim, I thought was very good and useful and clutch in certain moments. I would like to see her play more. So I think that playmaking thing sorry, in the middle of the park, the way that things go, the creativity that Robert allows the players to play with, the creativity is really important. And many of the calls that I've had with him, he talks about that creativity and that understanding where you are and what you want to come out of it. And I think the key with Montreal.
Yeah, well, that's also something we're going to talk about because Elias kind of touched on it. Something that we've noticed in practice. We've been attending practices and kind of seeing how Rose FC are preparing for the 2026 season. And one of the things, Elias, that we noticed was the change of formation. Which actually, when we interviewed Robert Rasatoyu, he told us that yes, he is moving towards a different direction when it comes to playing a back three instead of a back four. So now, how do you guys feel about that moving forward? Shireen, I'll start with you. Is it something? Should he have maybe kept the structure that kind of worked last year? Yes, it didn't end so well last year, but should he have kept it, or is it maybe a good move to start maybe make a change for 2026 in that sense?
Well, those things aren't
Shireen, I'll
static,
start with
right?
you.
Like he's going to assess it based
Yeah.
on the opponent. Like it's he's going to make the call. He's going to look and talk to the technical director and talk to the players and like figure out who he's playing against. Like what works against Rise isn't necessarily what works against Calgary Wild or Rapid, right? Like you have to adjust. And one of the things is that being able to be dynamic enough to adjust. And I think Robel will be able to do that. He has the trust of his players. And that was one thing that we saw and we understood that was key, that you have to have trust in your coach and your coaching staff. And Montreal didn't waver on that with the players that we spoke to, right? With the exception, obviously, of one who left. But also, Paczurski coming was a really big deal, in my opinion. It was a really big deal, and, there was commentary about it, but her saying that, "I see what's happening," she left a championship winning team to come to Montreal. And like the gravity of that is important because it says she sees something that she wants at Montreal that she didn't see anywhere else. And honestly, if Lisa Petrusky put out a call to be like, listen, I'd like to move, I would be shocked if not all clubs came forward and said something. But she wanted to go to Montreal. I don't think this was like, let's offer the most and see what happens. I think her eyes were set on that. And that is also tells other players, I like what I see there. I like the style of coaching. I like the style of play. I'm it's going to be we'll see yet if it's a good fit. We don't know yet. They haven't played a
Yeah.
match. So, I mean, ask me this question in July and we'll see what happens.
Okay, we'll invite you back then, Shireen, in July to ask you the same question again. But Elias, based on what you think, the same question, right? Now we have Megan Sauvé, who we saw that can play left back, also left winger, and we saw Haley Whitaker as well. But we also talked about in this show towards the end of the season when we were seeing the signings that there was a lack of depth in that position. There were a few players that left, in that played the natural fullback, Lara Schenk and Jody Smith, right? That they were essentially depth players. How do you think we're heading into this season with that position, like, especially in this three back wing back position? How do we do this?
Yeah, the writing should have been on the wall that there was going to be a pretty heavy formation change when Jody Smith and Larshenko left, and they didn't really sign a replacement, right? Um, Look, both Megan Sauvé and Haley Whitaker are very good on both sides of the ball. And I think that enabling them to kind of get forward even more and control the wider spaces while having the defensive security is why they're switching to a three back. Because remember, right, one of our biggest issues last year with the fullbacks, namely Haley Whitaker, is that she really couldn't get forward as much as she wanted to because she had significant defensive responsibilities. And then Montreal would always get countered. And then, so, she had to be reined in even more. Now that she plays in a three back, she has a freedom to get forward, and she is getting into fantastic spots already in these friendlies. She's all the way in the penalty area. She's playing as a quasi winger, and one big surprise for me, because I wanted her even closer to the middle of the park, is the fact that Chirim Kang was also playing as that wing back. So she
Hmm.
wasn't really playing as that inside forward where, it looks to be like a 3-4-2-1, right? It's not proper out and out wingers. It'll be almost like inside forwards in the half spaces behind a striker, where you had, people like Lisa Petrusky can thrive, and Laurie Thibault was there, Noemi Paquin was there, and even Tanya Boychuk had a shift, as an inside forward, where again she can play off of someone like Elise Bennett, who's more of a target player. But Chirim Kang was a out and out wing back, and on the offensive side of the ball, that's going to kill teams because you have someone that technically proficient, and it's going to be probably on the same side as Petrusky, and the two of them together, I can't really think of any partnership defensively that's going to be able to consistently hold that back. So now it really just depends on how Rosatoya is going to utilize so much offensive firepower and also balance it up, because then you look in the midfield, and when you have a double pivot of Rui Minas and Charles Ribeau, again, these are ball playing central midfielders that are technically excellent, but you don't have someone like Ali Hess that's going to cover insane amounts of ground, is going to be that kind of defensive sentinel anymore. So he's the defensively responsible and stout team that we saw in 2025. I feel like we're almost getting the other side of that coin here, because they have so much firepower on this team now that you can't help but use it to its fullest extent. So I would love to see a Rose's side that, instead of winning 1-0 and 2-1 and very, hard fought wins, now gets into shootouts every other week, because you have, some of the most dangerous offensive players in the NSL. But I think that when it comes down to the formation, the fact that they're all not only on board, but they all seem so excited about, like, they were genuinely giddy about the
Yeah.
fact that they get to kind of not throw caution to the wind, but just they have that freedom to get forward and kind of do what they do. That's a sign that not only do you have a technically talented team, but you're giving them the green light to say, okay, you know what? I want you to affect games. And if you don't affect the game necessarily and it's not your day, there's going to be two or three other people on the field to kind of take that burden off you, which is something that we didn't have last year. We didn't see last year from them, right? If it wasn't Early in the season, if Latifa Abdou wasn't, scoring a brace, or Tanya Boychuk wasn't getting one, then you didn't really have contribution from elsewhere. If Stephanie Hill wasn't winning a header, then nobody was winning a header in the corner. But now you see Elise Bennett, who again is, maybe not 6'1", but she is a force to be reckoned with on a set piece. That takes some of the pressure off of Stephanie Hill, and it gives now multiple aerial threats that defenses have to worry about. So I again, they haven't played NSL competition, right? But they've done extremely well against semi-professional competition from Ontario and Quebec, and it's extremely offensive minded, especially with how they're playing in, again, indoor fields for the most part are very narrow. So finding space there is at a premium, and they're doing it. So when they get outdoors and they get to kind of, spread their legs on and stretch their legs on an open pitch, it's gonna be really fun to watch.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, okay? Because soccer is a business, as you guys know, and there's unfortunately there are hirings and firings. So, considering how Roses FC finished last season, look, before I get into it, when I spoke to Robert Rasatoyu, I asked him, "How are you feeling about the pressure going into 2020? Do you feel pressure at all? Last year wasn't maybe the best finish overall, right? I mean, we can talk about the whole season." And he told me, I don't really feel pressure. I put pressure on myself. So nobody can put me more pressure than me, right? But from the outside perspective, how are we feeling about Robert? Like how much pressure Robert Rasatoyu should I'll start with you. How much pressure Robert Rasatoyu and Marinette Pichon should be feeling that they have a successful season in 2026?
Well, I think the pressure's definitely there. I don't think they were satisfied with where they ended up on the table. Like within, but I mean, everybody except for Toronto was unhappy with where they ended up, right? So there's different reasons. Um, so this is something to think about. Like he's going to say what he says to the media is going to be a little bit different than the actual reality is. I mean, from us, we can ask all the questions we want, but it would surprise me if there wasn't a push for a variety of reasons. One, to say, yeah, we are to be taken seriously as a team, and the changes and the, thinking about change in formation and change in system or strategy. I think that's really important because Robert's not doing his job if he's not changing it up to make it more effective and more attacking and more clinical. He has to. That's literally what the job is. Like, and you see the movement, you see, and it's not just Montreal. You've seen movement in front office as well to reflect the changes that people want, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. Like what's happening, all these kinds of things. But specifically with the players and with the coach, and Marine Pichon is the same thing. Like she's scouting, she's, bringing forth her context. Like, I mean, obviously it's clear Charlotte Bilbao came because of her. Like that was
Hmm.
quite clear that, and extending, and searching and scouting and making sure they're having the best possible players that they can have at Roses. That's part of that job too. So I think there was an extreme amount of pressure, whether it's put on externally or internally. I don't know, but like, look, this is professional sports. If you don't have pressure, should you even be in the game? That's the other question.
I agree.
Like,
And
we're not doing this. We're not doing this for participation ribbons. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is professional women's sports.
exactly. It's a business, and that's something that I think maybe the first season gave some players and coaches a little bit of freedom in the sense it's our first season. We're trying to get, just trying to get our feet on the ground, just trying to settle. Elias, with what you've seen Roses FC do this offseason with the signings, last year we saw a lot of Quebecois players, a lot of trying to connect with the community, and that was great. That worked great. That brought, that filled up the stadium as well because there were a lot of family and friends that were there. But beyond that, there were also soccer fans that wanted to watch more soccer. But do you feel that Marinette Pichon's offseason feels like maybe she was looking to change the philosophy of the team? Do you think that that was a desperate move, or do you think that was actually something that she saw necessary on the field?
Don't think it was really a desperation kind of thing, right? When you look at last season's prototypical starting 11, it's not like they had like seven Quebecois out there, right? There was definitely Quebecois influence, absolutely, especially off the bench. But Chloe Minas came in halfway through the season, and she's from Montreal, right? You have Charlotte Bilbao, who is, I think, is already coming being adopted into Quebec's soccer identity, right? Megan Sauvé is an institution in Quebecois soccer. She was, one of the best players in the country when she was at UDM. You have people like Stephanie Hill, who is literally from my neighborhood growing up. And so it's there's the identity is still very much there. And I think that the people that are being maybe being brought in are not necessarily to replace Quebecois. So I don't know if it's necessarily a shift in that part of it, because you still have super important people as well that are going to be providing either really important starting minutes or coming off the bench, like Noémie Paquin, like Laurie Thibault, like Mara Bouchard, and then the goalkeeper situation, which is, one and two are effectively, Quebecois keepers. So, and Anna Carpecos from Richmond. She's from Toronto, isn't she? Never mind. But I mean, you have Gabriel Lambert,
Right.
you have Anne-Marie Larouche that are Quebecois and are definitely going to be important to that entire locker room. But I think it's also just the fact that, kind of like what Shireen just talked about and talked about a bit earlier, it's not year one anymore. We can go, wow, we're a pro club, we're a pro league. There has to be a certain amount of accountability now, right? Because you can't, I don't know if it's the right word, but you can't coddle people because it's their first year anymore and it's such an accomplishment. Now you have to kind of hold people accountable because this is a serious sporting institution, right? So and Robert kind of talked about it in his first media availability, where he was, he's excited to have a full off season that's just about soccer. Last year they were busy sourcing where to get balls for practice. This year that's not a concern. There's none of that, both sides of both sides of it now don't really matter, both of the amazement but also the realities of starting a team from scratch. So I think Marine Pichon's philosophy, or at least the club's transfer philosophy, kind of reflects that. I don't like,
And
there is the Quebecois element there, but that's not a crucial part of whether or not they're going to sign a player.
I think one of the things I totally agree with what Elias is saying, but also the team identity and that whole thing, that also has to be dynamic. Like it can't, like, we're in a new league in a relatively, it's not the most it's the most played sport for youth in this country for sure. We already have seen the data on that and the reports on that. But it's, like you could argue in that space, it's not, and making it their own is not going to be one thing. What NSL is in 2025 can't be what it is in 2030. It's got to be different and all across the board.
Mhm.
So particularly for the Roses. So if it's a change in whatever, I think that's important. Like, the ball is round, but it has to keep moving, keeps rolling. The ball's round, it doesn't stay static. Did you like that? Just see what I
I
did there?
love that. That's the clip right there. That's the clip right there. But thank you, Shireen. And you know what? We're gonna, thank you so much for giving us all this time. We're just gonna finish it off with a few predictions, which we're gonna play again when you're back, Shireen, and we're gonna predict a little bit as to how the season is gonna go. So, Elias, I'll start with you for this one. What's your pick for league MVP this season?
League MVP. Oh,
We'll
geez.
do league and then we'll do roses. How about that? Let's start with roses. Every time I ask him a
Am
question,
I
this
crazy if I say Elise Bennett?
hmm,
I
okay.
the
No
way she's
explanation
looked the
needed.
way she's looked in training camp is unbelievable, and I think
Okay.
she's going to have a really big season.
League? Any league, Elias,
Oh, I
prediction?
thought you meant league.
No, no. Any league prediction?
Yeah,
Where you
I
think?
think Elise Bennett is going to win league MVP. It's a big
Okay,
shot,
then.
but she has been scoring goals for fun. She's mobile. She's so strong. She's great with the ball, and I think she's going to be a super important part of this team.
All right. I'm not going to say you're wrong because it's just a prediction, right? Shireen, we'll start with roses and then we'll start with league MVP. What are your predictions?
Um, I'm really excited to see Elise Bennett. I got a chance to talk to her during media day. She's one of the players that was like, "What is this cold?" Because although she's from Illinois, her family's in Florida, so it was a little bit. It was, but I think she's handled herself with a lot of poise. She's an incredibly poised player. This is the one thing I'll say. I've seen some film of her. I haven't watched her in practice because, like, I'm not at. Unfortunately, I don't. I haven't had an opportunity to be preseason in other markets, but I'm really excited to watch her play because, like, she can be explosive, and I think that's exactly what's needed. League is tough. Like, there's so many strong contenders. Like, even if you look at the top 3 goal scorers, like DB, Kelly Hunter, Latif Abdu, like,
Not Latif Abdul. You can't
I
come
know.
to a Montreal podcast and say Latif Abdul.
Andy franchement, I'm gonna be serious and honest here, okay? Like,
Damn
I wanted
it.
to move anybody, but, like, realistically, my
Yeah.
point is, like, it could I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
It's okay.
Like,
It's a
even with
prediction.
one
It could be wrong. It could be right.
well,
It's all
I
right.
mean, even but I'm saying there's that intensity, and I love
Mhm.
that. Like, even in the last 2 games, like, Kaylee Hunter was like, "I'm gonna try to get the most goals," and, like, she was still 4 or 5 behind DB Pridham, but she's still gonna try. Like, I actually really don't know. And one of the things is this award comes down to top goal scorer, right?
Mm.
So, and but if we're talking about all rounder, like I thought Emma Regan was phenomenal last year, and she's from
She was
Toronto. I thought
Unbelievable.
the way she played every minute of every match, held her composure. She's like central to the middle of the park. Like she's incredibly important piece there. So there's I really I don't know. I don't know about league. Yeah, I don't know about league. That's a tough one.
all right. I apologize for the question. That was a terrible one. I'll say Roses. I'll say Roses FC. My MVP prediction is going to be um, Lucy Capadonna. And I know she's a
Mm.
defender. She's not. She might not come out on the score sheet. That's fine. But after the solid season, Elias, we talked about it in this show over and over again. She was. She. We were surprised she wasn't wearing the captain's armband because even in horrendous games, she always stood her ground and put on performance. And she led this team by performance. Not necessarily the most vocal person, but I definitely did think she was she was a very impactful player. So I'll say that she'll probably have a good season. Now, as for the league, someone I'm keeping my eye on, and I think she's impactful enough to be, um, an MVP would be Ottawa Rapids Min Lee. That she's a midfielder
Minimally,
attacker.
yeah.
That I've seen her play a few games. I saw her against Montreal and a few other games. She is impressive. Her movement, her reading of the game, her speed, and just the way she sets up her teammates is so like you said, goal scoring is what leads to the MVP. Um, but we have Wally who has a question for you, Shireen. Wally asks us a question for Shireen: who will be the Tides MVP?
The tides. Ugh.
I don't know. We're just
I feel like Annika Toth has done phenomenally well for her first professional contract. I don't sleep on goalkeepers, ever. I think that what she did in being last place team and the way she persevered, the amount of clean sheets, the amount of saves that she had despite the amount of shots, that was phenomenal, and I just see her getting better. Um, yeah, that's the first name that comes to mind. I think that Tides is also another team that's sort of reinventing itself ahead of the second season, and I feel that way about Wild too. They had some seasons. They had the new keeper that got signed in Calgary, and so we're seeing this kind of movement and evolution happen across. But for Tides, I would say like Annika Toth is
okay.
gonna have
You see, Shireen is like, why are you guys throwing these questions at me randomly?
It's okay. I'm not great. I've only ever successfully ever done one prediction that came true, and this is
Yeah,
when Twitter was still a nice place to be for all our
yeah,
soccer
yeah,
people.
yeah,
It's now just fascism and porn bots, but
yeah.
before it was like such a wonderful soccer community. I
Yeah.
That
remember
used to be.
predicting in the group stages of the 2018 World Cup that Croatia and France would go to the final, and I was right.
Oh, nice.
It's a great
So
shout.
that leads us to our next question, Shireen. You set yourself
Oh
up.
God.
Prediction time. All right, Elias, where do you see Roses FC finishing in the standings?
I think they're going to improve on last year just because they have more depth than they did in 2025. I don't know if they have the full squad yet to compete with Toronto over the course of a whole season. I'm gonna hedge my bets. I'm gonna say third. I'm gonna say improvement, but maybe not crazy.
Ooh, okay. I'll say first because I'm crazy
Ooh.
like that. Hey man, I really do believe that they improved, and I really do believe that
Every team
the
improves,
talent.
though. That's the thing, right?
No, but I do believe that they addressed needs. I'm really concerned about the wingback position. I said that earlier in the show, but I'm concerned. But I think Marine Pichon will not just use this window. We lost Elias. Oh, there he is. Okay, so we're gonna. You're here, Elias. But I do
What the
believe
hell's
that
happening?
they might end first. But Marine Pichon will cook some magic and hopefully get them to first. Shireen, where do you think Roses FC finish in the standings?
Uh, I feel like it keeps on the broadcast, the podcast that I'm on with Signa and Amy. I keep saying I agree with Signa. I feel like today I'm agreeing with Elias all the time. I think I would say second or third, but there's a couple things contextually to keep in mind. It's a very long season.
Yeah,
And I had really high hopes for Roses last year because the intensity that they came into the league with, the excitement around the club, the launch. They had one of the coolest launches. They had the coolest launch, I think.
yeah,
Like I said, Victoire was there. They had like so many formidable people supporting them. But it's a long season, and continuity and consistency and stability will be key factors for Roses to keep that start with momentum, but keep it going. So, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So for now, I'll say third. I mean, I would love to see a major shift in all of this. I would love to see the table change. Like, listen, the more that it changes drastically, the more tension it is, the better it is for me,
love the
right?
drama.
The
Love it.
love, like that's what
Yeah, yeah.
I keep saying.
Papa.
Journalists need tension. We need that drama. Like those storylines are fantastic. So I would love to see shuffling. I'm probably gonna get a call from someone from Toronto soon saying, "What are you talking about on this podcast?"
Let's
But
keep everything the same. You know?
exactly, like I think, and the fans
Yeah.
love it and are invested in it. And that's when you see there's nothing more boring than the same winner over and over
Yeah.
again. Like that's not fun.
Yeah. Well, Rose
I,
FC
I I
did
think
bring.
I think Rob Rosatoyu. I spoke to him a couple weeks ago, and when I asked, because again, there was people that are in and out of the injured list that weren't playing friendlies because of a knock or something like that, and
Mhm,
last year they kind of admitted that they maybe were not physically ready for the realities of the fact that it's a marathon, not a sprint. They came out the gates
mhm,
and they were the only team that was pressing that like that. I think that they
mhm,
may have caught teams off guard with how physically prepared they were in terms of just being super fresh. But we talked about it, Andy, right? As the realities of a season set in and teams hit their stride,
Yeah.
are the Roses going to improve? Or are they going to kind of stay at the same level? And they kind of stay at the same level, and everyone else caught up. This off season, a lot of the emphasis physically is on preparing the team for the long run. And if that means extra workload during the off season that maybe they didn't do last year, then they're going to take that trade off just because it'll pay off maybe in 2 or 3 or 4 months time when you don't really see the benefit of it now. So we'll see if that does, if that does work, but it's definitely something that they were aware of, that physically speaking, they maybe were not ready for how much of a marathon, what was it? It was 25 games last year, something like that. How the toll it takes.
yeah.
Yeah. And
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 it's
we and
it takes a toll on, like, the mental and the physical,
Mhm.
Absolutely.
and to be able to do that, like, one of the things that I was asking the clubs last year was, like, "Do you have mental performance coaches for your players, and what does that look like?" Like, and every team has a different, setup, and, like, they all provide the players were all, like, were incredibly supported, right?
Mhm.
So but, like, I think about that sometimes and what it takes to make it to that very end.
Yeah, and Montreal Roses do have a mental coach. His name is Antoine Goulner, and he's been doing it for a
Mm,
very long time since the Montreal Impact Academy. I'm not going to say he's good or bad. I don't know, but I mean they do have that support system. But you mentioned about storylines, and Montreal Roses kept the Roses FC kept us talking in this show because they did have big storylines. Elias, you mentioned that at the beginning of the season, we said they seem to be at another level, Shireen. They seem to be at another level where they're playing physically faster, stronger than everybody else. And but we kept saying at the end of the show, Elias, we said, but be careful because the other teams are going to catch up. They are going to catch up. They are going to figure it out. And then the whole Latif Abdul happened in August that she left the team, which was a huge blow. Which was a huge blow, and where we were all taken aback. It came out of left field. Nobody saw that happening at all, especially the season that she was having. And then towards the end of the tail end of the season, you know, I think they had qualified for the playoffs at some point, but they still had some games to go. And the games that they had to go, it just felt like they took the foot off their pedal. They didn't seem to be moving forward. So we'll end it with this, Shireen. Finally, who do you think will be the biggest surprise, either a team or a player across the league this year? I'm going to start with mine. My player will be Marilou Harvey. She'll be the surprise player of the league. I'm calling it right now. At 16 years old, I think she'll get some starts, some minutes, and she's going to. Maybe I'm wrong. The team that could surprise, maybe the Halifax Tides. They seem to have they seem to have done moves quietly, not big splashes, but they seem to have kind of admitted that they maybe didn't. I'm not saying they're going to end the first, but they might turn it around and build some momentum and challenge teams. Shireen, you want to go next?
I think the biggest move on the table will be Halifax. So I'll agree with you. I don't know how far up it's going to go, but I mean, like it can't. I mean, it can't get worse. So
Yeah.
like the only place to go is up,
It
right?
can.
I think there'll be a shift in that. I agree with you. In terms of a surprise player, um, that's a tough one. I think additions on one of the things I like about the second season is that because we've seen the script of the first one, we know what's happened, it's played out. New characters coming in are always a great thing.
Mm.
So additions, not transfers from different teams, like new players coming in, I think are um I actually think Ottawa is really strong as a unit. And I think they are a lot more lethal, and not just because of DB Pridham, but as a whole than people give them credit for. I remember watching last year Stella Downing play and just
Mm.
being like, wow, like to watch her play was up the wing was just phenomenal. I think, yeah, there's something about that. There's something about the chemistry of that team that my interest is piqued. Let's just say that.
All
And,
right.
yeah, I think Calgary is building its own. Like, I think, like, Caitlin Talbot is there, and there's a really interesting I can't believe we didn't even talk about this. The keeper that signed with Halifax. Oh my gosh, my brain is buffering right now.
Same, same here.
The one that came out
Elias.
of injury.
Yeah, no, but anyway, so you're and can you think of any player on top of your mind that is set for a big season?
Yeah, it's gonna be DB Pridham again, and it's gonna be Esther Okoronkwo again, who is
Yes.
just so talented. I felt like Esther started to peak towards the end of the season,
Yeah,
or
when they played
Haley
Roses.
Hunter. Yeah.
When they played the Roses, we saw her peak. Yeah,
Yeah, she
she
was I
was.
mean, AFCON put a lot of, gusto into her, like, winning just just, like, being in a place where that was so pivotal to her and being nominated as a player of the year in the African continent is so important. And her coming off and I just think it was so, so key. Um, so I always, she's enjoyable to watch. That's the other thing. Who is the most fun to watch? There's a question I have for both of you. Who do you enjoy watching play?
On the record or off the record? Because off the
Oh,
record, I really liked watching Toronto play, but I'll never admit to that in public in front of people that
Elias.
can record this and clip this. But um, no, I mean, all jokes
Just go.
aside, watching Toronto play, and there was a saying that I forget who said this, but you never really appreciate how good a player or a team is until they play against players or teams that you watch on a weekly basis, that you watch
mhm,
all the time.
mhm,
And so
mhm.
I only really got an appreciation for how good Toronto was when I mean no, I knew that they were good, but you only really get a proper appreciation for teams like Toronto and teams like Vancouver when they played Roses, especially at the end of the season. Because I feel like Vancouver, who started the season off pretty slow, was by the end of the season unbelievable and untouchable. I think Latifa Adu was just adding more dynamite onto an already existing mountain of dynamite. But Toronto, the way that they managed to the way that they were so efficient against Montreal over what is effectively a three-legged tie if you count the season finale and then the two-legged playoff series is it was depressingly impressive to watch.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting season. Shireen, we'll be in touch because we there's gonna be a billion and one storylines that are going to be building here in Montreal, and I'm sure around the league. But it's going to be a big one. It's going to be a big season, and we're excited to cover it. We've covered Roses FC all season. Last season, we were learning as we went, just like the league was learning itself. Um, and I'll just finish with this, Shireen, a question for you. What are you most excited about this 2026? Maybe on a personal level for you, or maybe for the league. What are we excited to for 2026?
The storylines. I think, that's something
Drama.
journalistically that I look forward to. The caliber of women's football is really fun. I have to mission to be able to visit every market. I missed Ottawa last year. Heard about it a lot from Tom Gilbert. He was annoyed with me about that, but, I do want to because I want to see them in their own space, and I wanna be there amongst the people, and not just in the press box. Even if I'm in the press box, I like to walk around. I like to feel what it's like to be part of those communities and see it, and it's something wonderful to see what's there. I just wanted to add too, like, Riley Foster is the name of the person I was trying to
Yes.
think, the keeper that was from previously played with Liverpool, had been called up to the national team. Her rehab story after her accident and coming back to play. It's not the only story, but it's a huge story. And coming back and, arguably fighting for number one against Annika Toth. Like those kinds of storylines are huge. And they make the league like make us salivate for more, right? That's what we want. And those kinds of things. Like, I'm also love stability and calmness and focus on the play, but stuff around that too matters, right? So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to covering a season. I'm really thankful to you guys for having me on. Like a lot of people don't understand, even at my old age, being able to do this work that I do and cover. I've covered soccer all over the world, women's
Yeah.
soccer. I've been to 5 women's World Cups. I've never been able to cover women's soccer at home. So last year was definitely I cried the whole way through the first match at
Yeah.
BC Place because it would meant so much, right? Like it will always mean that much. And there's generations of girls in Quebec and in Montreal who will never know what it's like not to have a professional women's team. That's amazing because I certainly didn't grow up like that and you guys didn't grow up like that. So
Yeah.
it just a continuation of that is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
well, no, you're right, and absolutely on a very personal level, this league has meant so much to the young people of Montreal, and the impact, like as you mentioned, knowing a world where there is a path to a dream. Like I told you a little earlier, when I spoke to Annie Larouche, I told her,
Mm,
"What is your message to little girls?" And I gave her an example of my niece Luana, and she
mhm.
spoke directly to my Luana. And to me, I just wanted to start crying right there because obviously a message to everybody, but it's a very personal thing, and it's the project itself, the NSL, the Rose FC, is tremendous. It's tremendous, it's revolutionary, and I hope it goes on forever and ever, and it grows into something bigger that people didn't expect. Shireen, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for joining. And when you're in Montreal, when you were visiting the market, hit us up. We'll show you around the stadium. We know the place.
100%.
So we'll show you
100%,
around.
I'm gonna do that. I'd be like, "Guys, where are you? Let's
Yeah,
let's
right
let's get
here.
some food. Take me somewhere to eat." I
Some
still
poutine.
remember.
We'll
Yeah,
introduce you to some poutine, some all that fun stuff.
absolutely. Like, I usually hang out in DDO when I'm there. Like, I have really
Hell
close family.
yeah,
Elias, Elias.
So,
Ahoy.
and you guys, yeah, like the Saint Lavatar, like, I'm, like, Viator, sorry, I go in and get my bagels from there.
Let's go.
So,
Yeah,
you know the place. So
oh,
I love it, and I will be there
yeah,
for sure. I will
yeah.
100% be there. And, like, I have
We'll be
friends that are in the
waiting.
plateau, they're like, "Come visit me," and I'm like, "Yeah, so we'll check it out." Yeah, I'll be there. But
We'll
thank you so
be.
much for having me.
No worries. From all, everybody at the ball is round, we really appreciate your time and hope to see you again. To let our listeners know, Shireen, where can they find you and keep up with what you're doing?
So you can find me on Instagram. It's at Footy Bedsheets. You can find me. I'm trying not to be on X as much, but I get sucked into it because the commentary is sometimes you can still find good people, obviously everywhere. I am a senior contributor at CBC Sports, so I do a lot of writing there, and on broadcast for NSL, the CBC games, the linear games. I will be on at the desk with Andy Petrillo and Amy Walsh this weekend, April 25th. So you can find me there. And you'll find me anywhere you find NSL. I will be there.
Awesome. And we just have one last comment from Patrick Dubs that says Fairmont is better. So
those are fighting words. Those are fighting words. I almost
we have the greatest listeners here that start stuff all the
fantastic.
time. Shireen, thank you so much again, and we wish you nothing but the best for the upcoming season.
Thank you so much, and same with you guys. Thanks for having me. Bye.
See you then. All righty then, Elias. As you know, that was fantastic. Shireen, fantastic.
Yes, thank you very much, Shireen. Who is
it really, really is important to cover this team, this league.
Shireen is a legend, man.
Yeah, it's absolutely necessary, and she's definitely the one of the people that's bringing this sport to another level by covering it and by bringing us awesome interviews and all that stuff. All right, so just before we move on to our next segment, before we dive into the fun stuff, quick little message for y'all. If you like The Ball Is Round, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. It really helps the show grow and keeps us bringing you more content every single week. And don't forget, drop your thoughts in the comments. You guys have already been doing it. What did you make of CF Montreal's performance? What about FC Supra? What about Roses FC? I know they haven't played, but give us all your comments. What needs to change? What stood out to you? We read the comments, and we want to hear from you. Make sure you're also following us on all of our social media accounts for daily update clips and breaking takes covering everything CF Montreal, Roses FC, and FC Supra to Quebec. All right. So before we go into CF Montreal, we do have one more guest that's joining us. Not a guest. He's not a guest. He's one of us. Howdy, boy. Can you believe I called your guest?
I don't know, man.
You're
weird. You're just weird.
Howdy, before we start,
yeah,
we had a little side chat, right?
Okay.
And you told me that you wanted to say something to Elias, that you didn't like what you heard. You wanted to put him in his place.
But first, I just
what did I do now?
He's angry.
I just want to thank Shireen for her time, and it was very very interesting interview. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be here because I had to put the kid to sleep. So unfortunately, I wasn't here, but I listened to a part of it. Super interesting as usual. So I don't know if she's still listening, but very very interesting. Elias, I thought we were friends, or like at least partners, or at least collaborators.
What
or
do I do now?
Whatever. But like on this pod, you cannot like anything from Toronto.
Nothing.
First of all,
you're not allowed. You can keep it inside.
That was off the record. You cannot be. That was off the record. You cannot be saying stuff like that. That's bad journalism.
I said
it's
that off the record. It was on the record. You just said it.
Literally be recorded.
Record it now with Shireen saying that you
when
love
somebody says
Toronto.
off the record, you as a journalist cannot repeat it. That is very bad form.
It wasn't off the record.
Unacceptable.
You said you love Toronto. You loved Toronto's season.
Unbelievable.
Nah, unacceptable.
I know that is unacceptable for you, Hadi. That's just despicable journalism shit.
You said it now, man.
I'm reporting you to.
You just said it.
Elias is just like blurring out stuff. Anything that comes in.
Doubling down on repeating stuff that was said off the record. That was
when off the record.
I am.
Let's ask Shireen if she remembers.
I am hoodwinked, bamboozled.
Let's bring Shireen back.
But most importantly, Hadi, I'm disappointed.
I'm
not mad.
Shireen
I'm not mad. I am disappointed in you, Hadi. No, because Shireen is a proper journalist. She would never reveal stuff said off the record. Unlike you.
All right, so let's go on to this nonsense. Let's go ahead and talk about CF Montreal. Now, this is usually the part of the show, guys, where some listeners kind of hit the fast forward button because who really wants to hear about a losing team? But believe it or not, Hadi, they actually won at Stade Saputo. The last time we were able to say that before this weekend was September 27, 2025, when CF Montreal beat Charlotte FC at home. Since then, it has been losses and losses. Guys, Elias, Hadi, can you guess how many days it's been since the last home win at Stade Saputo for CF Montreal?
But you just said September 27th. So
how many days has it been?
Yeah, if we do a quick math.
Quick math. Oh, Elias is looking it up. You're hey.
I'm doing math. Hold on. I'm a journalist. Math does not come easily to
He's
me.
doing math.
I'm
You
doing
got him
math.
Ask
triggered.
ask
Okay.
ask
You got
your
him
Toronto
triggered.
friends. Ask your Toronto friends. They'll answer.
This guy's got jokes. Heidi, I can mute you
Okay,
right
well,
now.
since you
I'm
guys
at
are
the
so
switchboard.
smart, it's
This
been
is.
203 days
I was gonna
since the
say that.
last
Thanks for cutting
home.
me off, Andy.
The last. Elias is losing his mind right now. It's-
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
this is what we brought Hadi back. We need that little every time.
To offend me in every way possible.
Okay, now let's get
It's
Unbelievable.
serious.
all love. It's
Let's
all
get
love. But I still can't
No.
accept it. But
let's
whatever. It's all love.
it's a clip. It's a clip. Let's get serious. All right, Elias, you were training before and after Philippe Lafroy took the reins of CF Montreal. From your perspective specifically, what were some of the biggest changes you noticed around the group
Oh
before
my
and after?
God. They're smiling. They're enjoying themselves again. And look, right, this was the same effect that Marco Donadel had on the group when Laurent Courtois left. Because especially when you get into the final days and weeks of a manager's tenure, the vibe, they're not idiots, man. They know what's happening. They know what people say. They know what people talk about. They know that people are calling for the manager's head, and that's usually because you're not playing well. So it very clearly weighs on the morale of the group, and the last couple weeks were no exception. Right? It was heavy. People were still talking. People were still, they're playing soccer. They're having some degree of fun, but you could tell that there was a snappiness, right? Marco Donadel stopped training multiple times over his last few weeks to yell at the players, right? Because again, at the same time, what morale is bad, you're not going to train as well as you normally do. You have a certain tightness, right? You don't. Your touches are a bit off. In hockey, they say you squeeze your stick too tight, right? In soccer, maybe your touch is a bit too tight. You're
Well,
right. So
you're
you're not
practicing
as
not to mess up.
exactly. So you could tell. And the second Philippe Lafroy took over, right, it was it's a load off everyone's shoulders. It's the exact same thing that happened just over a year ago, right? And Philippe Lafroy immediately his objective is to just let people kind of exhale a bit. The training session starts off with just a dumb, fun little exercise. They had a possession drill where you're allowed to use your hands. So feet, it's like rugby. Feet and hands are allowed. The another one, they had a possession drill, and it was balls from different sports. They were playing mini side game with a football at one point, and then a tennis ball, and they were throwing at random points, right? So stuff like that, right? It's a little bit of ridiculousness just to kind of remind you that you're playing a game, that you're just people playing a backyard game. And so it was effective. Training has improved. People are, people that haven't been training that well have really picked it up a notch. I think the fact that you're training outside and you're not breathing in Marie Victorin air helps a lot. But just in general, right now, the mood has improved significantly.
And that's something that, and we're going to talk about the game in a second, but that's something that you actually started noticing a lot more, and where you say, like, because people were reporting, like Maxime Truman, you were reporting, Felix was there too, about how the vibe around the team was a lot different. There was happiness, there was smiles,
Yeah.
and all that. Philippe Lafroy is a coach with a lot of psychological background. He uses a lot of psychology in his approaches, and even ever since the Montreal Impact Academy, he's always focused on the mental aspect, and he's always kind of thrown wrenches left and right to see, like, kind of to get a reaction from players and staff. So this is not, I'm not surprised by this, and you guys can see it in the press conferences. He talks a lot about psychology and the psychological aspect of the game and everything that he's trying to do. Elias, he actually answered one of your questions in his first press conference, where he said, I'm rebuilding the wheel with this team. So he really is going back to the basics to try to really,
Yeah.
really build them up to, hopefully, we don't know how long he'll be the head coach, or if he wants to be longer. I think, Lahadi, you were, when you were on last week, you said he'll be here for one game. After that victory, it really doesn't feel like he'll be in for one game. But let's go ahead and talk about the game. Heading into Saturday, after everything you saw, Hadi, how were you feeling before the game? Were you excited, skeptical, or were you at the point where you just like, F it. I don't even care what's gonna happen. I'm just here. How are
No,
you
I
feeling?
always care. It's rare that I don't care about something. When I don't care about something, I just don't do it anymore. As simple as that. Uh, but no, I was curious. Okay, I had a bit of granddad vibes from Philippe Lafroy.
100%.
Like typically, like the granddad that's here for you to have fun, that's giving you whatever you need for you to blossom in a way, right? And to be better, right? So he has that feel where you feel that he's seen it all. He's seen it all. He's just there. He's like, yeah, it's okay. We're gonna be okay. Let's have fun a bit, and we're gonna, that's what the players needed right now. I think that's what's really important, and I felt it in the first press conference before the game, and even in the press conference in the presentation of Philippe Lafroy. I saw that, and I was kind of excited because I lived that with Marseille a couple of seasons ago with a coach that came back that was uh, about to retire, and unfortunately he's passed away this year. Jean-Louis Gasset. It's that kind of coach that was the granddad that came at the end of the season, helped the team, and helped them just rebuild something that makes sense. And that's what I was hoping from Philippe Lafroy. Now, I don't think that's something he's going to be able to carry that momentum and that same vibe for a whole season. It's not something that works for a whole season, in my opinion. Uh, but it's nice to have right now. So that was my impression before the game. I was kind of excited because I thought that's exactly what the doctor ordered for CF Montreal players.
Absolutely. And Elias, I know you talked about how you observed the practice. You were there at the press conferences. You were also there in the press conferences last year when that change happened with Laurent Courtois and Marco Dandao coming in. This time around, in the leading up to this game, were you excited? Didn't care? Same thing. Same another day at the office. How did you feel heading into the game?
No, I was more excited to see how free they were allowed to be, and because again, right, I'm not blind to the problems that still exist at a squad level, right? I'm not expecting them to turn into prime Barcelona right away, right? Just because they're enjoying their soccer a bit more. What I was looking forward to was a team that is just allowed to be less rigid. Because again, Marco Donadel ran a very tight ship, tactically speaking. This is what you do, and then this, and it's almost like a step-by-step guide, when he's on the field. And so he said, right, man to man is gone. It's going to be a zone, which is again it's a return to the fundamentals. But that also means offensively, you're going to be allowed a bit more fluency because you don't have to worry about your defensive responsibilities as much. Marco Donadel, the way he operated, right, you exist in a space offensively and defensively. Whatever you do offensively has to be done while keeping in mind that you have defensive responsibilities, because the second you step out of shape a little bit, your man to man falls apart. So that's what I was looking forward to, and we got it. So I'd say it's mission
We'll
accomplished.
we'll
I
get
think going
yeah,
into
we'll
the
get
game,
right to it. Yeah. So
that's what I was hoping to see.
So let's go ahead and look at the lineup for CF Montreal versus New York Red Bulls. At goalie, we had Thomas Gillier. At right back, we had David Bugay, Jalen Neal, and Brian Vera in the back line with Luca Petrasso at left back, Victor Lotori, Matty Longstaff, and Samuel Pietz in the middle, as well as Noah Straight on the right, Prince Owusu up top as the 9, and Ivan Jaime on the left. All right. What were your thoughts when you saw this lineup?
I was at last a simple 4-3-3. It's gonna be great. We're gonna have Sam Piet just in front of the defense. We're gonna see all those players that were in the doghouse that came out and had their start, like Jalen Neal that had a great game in my opinion. I was happy to see something new, okay, because I said it last week. For me, Marco Donadel's tenure for me was very, very bad, in my opinion, since day one. and I haven't been sold at all. I wasn't sold before he was named, and I'm still not sold. I wasn't sold at any time during his whole tenure. So I was happy to see that 4-3-3. I was happy to see Sam Piet, to see Neil, to see Noah Strite, a name that we know too well in Montreal, the family name Strite, right, Elias? So people didn't have any problem saying his name while presenting the starting 11. No, I liked it. I was very very happy to have something simple to watch.
I think it was just something different. No more Dagor Tarhelson randomly as a right winger. No more, whether Ivan Jaime is going to be in the middle or in the left. Things were simple. And Elias, we talked about it before the season. We were like, what position is solid right now in that lineup, in the CF Montreal lineup? The only ones we could say was Prince Owusu and the goalie. The rest, we had no idea. We had no idea who could be a.
I said Victor Lotori.
Well,
Technically, I
but
wasn't.
great game.
Technically, I wasn't wrong,
you
but it
wanna
wasn't
you
because
wanna
of his
bring back the
performance.
tape? You wanna bring back the tape? Those were the only two positions he said, and so it just felt simpler. It felt simpler to see like players in their position, which is what
Mhm.
Philippe Lafroig had said during the week. He said, "I want to make sure that we're playing players where they belong." Wait, no shots taken at Marco Donadel at all. Hey, he was unafraid to take shots at Marco Donadel during the week.
That's
So
weird, by the way. That's weird
weird.
because he was his assistant coach, and
Yeah.
throwing him under the bus like that. I don't know. I
Adi,
don't
do you
think
know?
that's
Do you
that's
know
nice.
anything about CF Montreal? Do you know anything?
No, but
about
like you say it public. When you say it off the record, that's something. Like when you say it publicly, like Elias just did with Toronto,
Yeah,
that's
let's play
something
the
different, right? So
Elias just
sorry,
froze again.
I had to.
Moving on.
No, but like moving on. No, exactly. Like
The
honestly,
remove from stage button looks so good right now. It's like calling.
no, but seriously, like I don't know. I thought
Saying we
it
love
was
Paris Saint Germain.
weird.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Sorry.
what?
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it. I was surprised to see him.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the game, which CF Montreal won. They won solidly. Solidly. I mean, it wasn't, and I compared this, okay? Like I said this on X. I felt that the first win against the New York Red Bulls, which Marco Donadel was under the helm, was because New York Red Bulls were really bad. They were just waiting for them to make a mistake and capitalize. This time around, New York Red Bulls were really bad. But CF Montreal also played a really good game on their own game. So, what were your thoughts? Elias, I'll start with you. What were your thoughts overall? And actually, just before you say something, Patrick says, surprised that Maya hasn't even dressed yet.
I was gonna get into that because you talked about wanting to see a 4-3-3 with Carmona and Amaya, which I think would be delightful. But you got to remember that Frankie Amaya hasn't played since November, right? He hasn't played at all at Toluca, so there's only so much match fitness that can be ready. You saw Fabian Herbers when he came on, right? He also hasn't played since November, and he looks horrible, right? Because he also had injuries to deal with and everything, but it goes to show you what a lack of match fitness looks like compared to what we know Fabian Herbers can play, the level he can play at. So I'm not too surprised that they're kind of easing him into it. Hopefully we see him at least on the bench for New York NYCFC. I think that's the bare minimum, especially because again, you have people that are injured and people that are not available to you. But as far as the game itself, I agree with you, Andy. Both times that Montreal has played Red Bulls have been shocking, horrible. And I think people need to, and again, I love what Philippe Lafroig has done to kind of galvanize and liberate the consciousness of this team, if you will. But it's also important to remember that the only game Marco Donadel won was against Red Bulls as well. So I think people need to relax with the whole make him permanent manager. It's one game. Relax.
Yeah.
All right.
Relax.
Let the team kind of just unclench before you start talking about managers again. Please let them breathe and not think about who the coach is for a second. And so, but with that being said, when I saw the lineup and I saw Laturi, Piet, Longstaff in the midfield, I'm like, oh my God. they're not going to break through. It's just going to be built like a brick wall. And Samuel Piet finally gets to be kind of that pivotal part of the midfield. And what I saw was by far the best Victor Loturi we've seen this season, and a very good Matty Longstaff as well. And I'm not surprised that we saw both of them when Samuel Piet is on the field, because what does Samuel Piet do better than everyone else? He liberates them. He frees them up to play soccer while Samuel Piet does the stuff that no other player is willing to do. And we saw it at the beginning of the season because Matty Longstaff and Victor Loturi were not willing to do the work that Samuel Piet was doing. And that was the big gap that was there. So the second they got on, all of a sudden, Victor Loturi can break lines. All of a sudden, Matty Longstaff is making these incredible runs. All of a sudden, they're both scoring. They're never that high up the pitch if Samuel Piet is not there for them. If they played in a regular double pivot and they played Jorge Escobar at a 10, for example, Victor Loturi does not win the ball that high up. And they do not keep Red Bulls at what? It was like a 0.4 expected goals for the whole game, despite having 68% of the ball. It was excellent, right? And so this was a team that was liberated to play offensively while also understanding that they have to be held accountable and they're not better than what they think they are, So I really enjoyed it. I found it to be a very joyful and free expression of football while also being extremely pragmatic, which is kind of what I hoped would happen.
Elias, before I get to Hattie, can you just put up the message of P Dubs that did in the chat? He says, Hattie, I take back what I have said about Piet in the past. He showed how important he is. I'm sorry.
Isn't it great to have vindication? Also, fantastic.
Hattie loves this moment. Woo!
No, but honestly, Piet showed what he's good at.
Piet was another level. I'm sorry.
But he's always like that. He's always like that.
That's the thing. That wasn't an above average Samuel Piet performance.
That's a normal Samuel Piet performance. He's an anchor man in the middle. That's all he does. He plays, he wins the ball, he gives a short pass to someone that makes the play. That's as simple as that. This is Samuel Piet at its finest. This is what you're going to get from him. And in a 4-3-3, where you have two mobile number 8s, like Longstaff and Loturi, that had, as I said, a great game, then Samuel Piet shows even more, just because those two midfielders are able to create, because he's doing the dirty job, right? So I don't know. For me, I haven't seen more from Samuel Piet than what I've seen before. He was as important as he was previously. It's just that don't expect him to make that run, that dribble, and that shot from outside the area. And this is not his game. It's exactly how he plays. Now, P-Dub says he's at his best alone in front of the defense. It's not only that, it's the role that you give him. If you give him a role where he just needs to win the ball and give it to someone, then he's going to win all the balls possible. And this is exactly what he did.
He did it, and he did it really well. And I think it changed the whole game.
Yeah.
And that leads me to my next question, right? Who was your top performer of the night? I'll say it. I'll say mine. Samuel Piet, 100%. You can talk about Prince Owusu. You can talk about the other. They were fantastic. They were great. But to me, the one that goes unspoken, you guys said he does one role. But that one role, to me, deserved a 9.9 because he did it consistently throughout the game until the moment he was taken out. And he impacted the game. He made an impact on the game. So that, to me, is what a top performer does. Not someone that scores 7 goals. That's fantastic. But who is the one doing all the work that's impacting the game differently than the one last week? Who was your top performer of the night?
I would have said Piet, but I'm just going to choose someone else because a lot of people were very good. There's two players that come to my mind, but I'm going to go with Longstaff. I know he scored a no goal. I understand that, but this is an unfortunate event.
It was
He
such
he had
a
to
Right?
give them
lucky,
one. He had to
yeah.
give them one.
He was so good, like so good. I loved his game. I feel that he was everywhere on the pitch. He was asking, Jaime to I don't know if you saw that, but at one point he's like, come on, press, press, press. And like Jaime looked at him and was like, calma, calma. He was like everywhere. It
Yeah.
was beautiful to see. I saw a glimpse of the Matty Longstaff of Newcastle. I saw a
Yeah.
glimpse of that. And this is what we need from him. We need him to be that dynamo in the midfield.
Did you
And
see how he ran down the field for that goal?
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
midfielder running at that speed.
But that's what he's supposed to be. That's
Yeah.
what he's supposed to do.
He's a classic
Elias,
box to box, right? So I
Yeah.
mean, I was not surprised that he did exactly that. And his heat map is hilarious. It's just all orange. My top performer, again, for we're keeping with not stating the obvious or repeating, is going to be Jalen Neal. Jalen Neal's only run in the team before this was a disastrous outing in Chicago,
Yeah.
where granted everyone played horribly, but he was, subbed off at halftime. He played poorly as well. Jalen Neal today is all the potential
Yeah.
that we've been sold on from the second that he signed. Is the reason that he was one of the most highly touted under 21 players, not just defenders, players in the league. That's the Jalen Neal that got called up to the men's national team for a camp. That's the Jalen Neal that would bench Efraim Morales, that would bench any defender at the club. That is the best defender at the club at that level, right? With the ball, excellent. Without the ball, he won every single aerial duel, or he won almost all his aerial duels. He didn't get dribbled past. He was a rock, right? That his entire side was great. Him and David Bugai worked very well together. I think that Bugai has, again, returned to being the first choice right back, no matter what.
he chose
But
violence too on Saturday.
Choose violence.
but Jalen Neal's performance reminded me of, injuries notwithstanding, just how high he can get.
Yeah.
And
His
so
potential is amazing.
exactly. So if I'm all the other defenders, not just if I'm Morales, but if I'm every other defender and I'm seeing that and I'm going, I'm not, I, I have to now surpass him. And again, barring knock on wood, another injury, Jalen Neal at that level does not leave the starting 11 at all for the rest of the season.
Yeah. And even the duo with Vera, I loved it. The duo together.
Yeah.
I feel that they complement each other because they're very mobile, both of them, and I love that. I love that. I think that together they can be a very strong back line.
Absolutely. And so we did talk about our tour performers, but were there any players, and this kind of also goes with what Patrick is saying, because he said, I'm also worried about Ivan Jaime. He's clearly a level above everybody, but he needs to produce. And maybe once he reaches the minutes for the buy clause to be engaged, which he has almost reached, he will play with less pressure. I mean, that's throwing an idea out there, but who didn't quite maybe meet the expectations on Saturday, guys? Who was it that you would have wanted to see on such a good game, maybe a little bit more? Elias, I'll start with you.
It's Ivan Hyman. And for me, it's not a production issue, because when he was given the ball, he made stuff happen. He created chances. He put the ball on plates for people, and I think that when he was in possession, he was very good. What my concern is he looks like he still doesn't fit. He doesn't know where he belongs, and you saw it whenever anyone that wasn't him had the ball on the left side. Whether it was a fullback, whether it was Longstaff driving with the ball, he doesn't know where to position himself. He still looks uncomfortable when someone else is in his space. So when the ball's on the other side, he's fine and he's in well positioned and he's waiting for it, and that's not a problem. But I saw a number of times, whether it was when they gave Petrasso just free space for no reason because Red Bulls played like shit, they let him, even Jaime was just kind of running, going like, if I don't get the ball here, I don't know. Like, if I don't get the ball here, I am
What
a
am I doing?
non-factor for the entire play. I'm not providing an alternative run. I'm not creating more space because again, you see Petrasso running and he's running like almost alongside him. And the same thing
Yeah.
happened when Longstaff was driving with the ball as well. So when I'm not saying he had a bad game, but it's been several months now that you're at the club, and the whole issue of you not starting is not a thing anymore. You're getting runs in the
Yeah,
team.
but
You're getting at least an hour now. I'm expecting you to understand a whole lot more. And this is not
yeah,
a
I
tactical
agree.
thing because his role under Philippe Lafroy has not changed from his role under Marco Donadel offensively, right?
Yeah, true.
So that now I hope Philippe Lafroy can use the Jedi mind tricks to kind of unlock that, but he looks uncomfortable still.
Honestly, I didn't think he had a bad game. I kind of get what you're saying, Elias, but I didn't think he had a bad game because he was involved in most of the goals. Like, not the assist or not the goal itself, but he was involved in the play.
Yeah.
I think in almost each one of the goals, if I remember correctly. Now, the problem is our expectations towards Ivan Jaime. Ivan Jaime is going to have the DP tag, and we're expecting him to be Nacho Piatti. He's not Nacho Piatti. He's not that good, in my opinion.
But
He's
he could
not.
be
I'm not sure he can.
there.
I'm not sure he can. Honestly, I'm not sure he can.
Hadi, you're
Uh,
making enemies today, huh? You're making enemies
no,
today.
I'm
Just
not
letting
sure.
you know.
No, honestly, listen. I think Piatti was one of the best players in the league. One of the best players in the league, and it's been said over and over and over and over again by all the MLS analysts,
Yes.
and
Different
saying
league,
that he
Hattie.
was undervalued and everything. Okay,
It's a
but
decade ago, though. It's a different league.
exactly, it's a different league right now, and I don't think he can dominate as much as Nacho Piatti dominated before.
That I agree with you. Yes.
Exactly. So if you're expecting him to dominate the way Piatti was doing, because that's how people see it, they want him to come and score goals and gives assists. It's going to be super hard, super hard. You need a better caliber player.
Well,
to be-
that's what they did. That's what the CF Montreal did with Bryce Duke once Georgi Mihailovic left. They were like, same guy, got to produce the same way, right? And it didn't work out at all. It was a complete
It was a
failure
project.
of a
Yeah, it was
project.
a project.
Hattie, I have a question for you. So Noah Strike on the other side,
Yeah,
I thought he was my guy that didn't meet the expectations, and I'll say why. Yes, I understand it's a new league. It's a for him, and he's young and everything, but I mean, he did have really good chances, and I just felt like he kind of hesitated a lot in the game where he was like, I don't trust all this space I have. Like
it's his first game, man. Give him a chance. It's his first game. He's young. Did you see him in the press conference? Poor
he was
guy,
nervous.
man.
Poor kid.
Oh,
Oh
poor
my God.
guy. The guy is impressed. The highest level he played at was the second division Swiss league. Like, you're not at the same level here. You're in the first division in MLS, and we can laugh at MLS as much as we want, but MLS is a legit league right now,
Yeah.
right? Like it's way above a second division Swiss league, right? So I agree with you, Andy. I'm not saying I disagree. I agree that he could have done more.
You are so confusing. I don't get you.
But no, but I think no. But I think that we have to give him a chance a bit. It's just his first game, his first start.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Look.
straight up disagree with you, Andy. I think that he did really well for his first start. Because we're talking about
For a
match
start.
fitness, right? We look at people like, and we're talking about people like Mahala, who even if he scored, did not play that well. We're talking about people like Fabian Herbers, who looks like a fish out of water the last two
Yeah.
games. Noah Streit has played almost as much as both of them, right? He's barely played. He came on against San Diego, and he hasn't really done much since. And he created the Longstaff goal. He
Yeah.
played Owusu in, and it was a great bit of technique. He plays like he's too shy, but when it comes to taking people on, he did it better than Hennady Sinchuk did. I think he's a different kind of player. I think he's more dynamic than Hennady Sinchuk. And so if you're going to play without a 10, which means there's more workload on a right winger, right now I'm taking Noah Streit over Hennady Sinchuk. based on what I've seen on the pitch, right? So right now I'm taking Ojer Escobar over Hernani Sinchuk because he was also fantastic in his little cameo. But I think Noah Strite
Fantastic.
really
He was
impressed
good.
me.
Fantastic.
What is this?
Did I say fantastic?
Yeah, you said fantastic.
I get.
And you said
but
you said you like Toronto too.
final warning.
Warning the he said the final one.
This is your final warning. J'en ai jusque là.
It was too easy. It was too easy.
J'en ai jusqu'ici.
Okay.
Moving on.
But no,
So
I really like
yeah.
Noah Strite's game, and I wouldn't be surprised if he starts
Yeah.
against NYCFC
Yeah.
as well.
Can
And
I
that-
give a hot take?
go ahead.
Just like fast, very fast.
Do it.
Hernani Sinchuk, if he doesn't put a bit of muscle, he reminds me of Lassie Lapalainen. I said it.
Good one. No, good one. Because we actually said, we said it with Elias when we saw him practice in the offseason. We actually said he looks bigger than last season.
That's great.
We said that.
That's what he needs.
Right, Elias? We observed that. We say he looks
Yes.
bigger, but he
But in
doesn't
his
look
game-
big enough.
But he doesn't play like it though. Either he doesn't play like it.
That's what he needs
He's
to
not like
change.
5'7", 5'8", 5'9" either. He's 6 feet tall. He's a tall kid.
Yeah, I like Lassie. Lassie's super big too, right?
Lassie was also made of glass, right?
Because he didn't put
Lassie
up
was made of
muscle,
glass as a
right?
grown adult. Sinchuk is
Yeah.
18 years old. I'll give him the
Yeah,
benefit
true.
of the doubt physically for now,
Yeah.
but he needs to stop playing like he's made of glass because
Yeah,
he
I agree.
isn't. He's put on
Okay,
muscle,
I
he's
agree.
put on some weight, and he looks better, but he needs to start carrying himself like it.
We do have one last topic to talk about, so we're just gonna finish with this for CF Montreal next week. NYCFC. What are your takes? What does CF Montreal have to do to keep the momentum going? What does Philippe Lefroy have to do with this team to keep the momentum going that we saw inside? Because it's at Stade Saputo again, right? So how do we do it? Hadi, I'll start with you. What does Philippe
Super
Lefroy?
simple. I'm just not gonna take a lot of time. Very simple. He needs a win. There's no other choice because Red Bulls, we just said it at the beginning of the segment, that they beat the Red Bull under Marco Donadel. If he wants to prove that things have changed, that the team is back on track, that he's able to carry the team forward, the minimum is a draw, but they need a win. They need a win. It doesn't matter now the shape and the tactical side of it, in my opinion. Right now, you need points. You need points at home. As simple as that.
Okay. Elias?
Yeah, I'd say at least a result. NYCFC have had a rough go recently, but they're still a very much improved team from last year. Even a point, I'm okay. Again, as long as we see more of the same. Again, I'm seeing this under the assumption that the people that weren't available last week are still not available. Right? Frankie Amaya might have 15, 20 minutes, maybe. I don't think he's going to start. Wiki Carmona, I think, is still going to be out. And Sinchuk, I'm not sure, but everyone else that's out is still going to be out. I'll take a point. I'll take a very solid, well-earned point that still shows me some offense, that shows me that defensively was not just a flash in the pan and they caught Red Bulls at a bad moment, but this is actually, the 7 people in front of Domagidi are working well, because that low block was even Philippe Lefroy admitted it was a bit too low, was a thing of beauty. It was airtight. So again, as long as they're defensively sound, I'm okay with it. But yeah, a result for sure. They can't lose.
Whatever happened to New York Red Bulls, man? Emil Forsberg and Eric Maxime, I forget his name, but man, they were supposed to be.
They've only lost one other game against
but it
MLS
just
opposition.
They've
lost
the
two
team I
against
saw.
Montreal.
The team I saw against Montreal both times just seems like
it's
Bradley.
horrifying.
It's
They
Bradley.
were
That's why
terrible.
Bradley against Montreal. As a player, it was great. As a coach, it doesn't seem great. As simple as that.
I'll take that.
Karma is a bitch.
We have so many clips over the show. Hey, guys, before we jump into the last topic, FC Super de Quebec, quick shout out to everyone who's watching us live right now. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe and turn on those notifications so you don't miss when we go live or drop any new episodes. It honestly helps us a ton and keeps this thing growing every single week. And hey, get in the chat, get in the comments. We want to hear from you guys tonight. We're always checking the comments. Even the ones that insult us, we're always reading what you guys have to say, and a lot of the time your takes make it on the show. And don't forget, make sure you're following us all on our socials for daily update clips, interviews, and breaking takes covering CF Montreal, Rose FC, and FC Super de Quebec. If it's happening in Montreal soccer, we got you covered, baby. All right, so we're gonna go to our last topic of the day, FC Super de Quebec. Boys, you were at the stadium. You were at Sepson yesterday. In the cold weather, I saw it from TV and it looked very, very cold. Yeah, give me your impressions. Hadi, what'd you think?
Man, I said it against when we talked about it with Rocco Pesentino. Honestly, yeah, almost. I didn't cry, but like almost. For me, it's you can't even imagine how important that game was. It was amazing. There was 5,000 people. It's not even a stadium. Like it's just a field, right? With just a couple of stands, right?
Well said.
And no, honestly, there was a lot of people. They were all singing. Honestly, yeah, it was very, very emotional to see these players also on the pitch. Players that I've watched play, in lower leagues and that we've seen play elsewhere, and players that you thought were great potential for CF Montreal, and unfortunately they didn't make it. And for them to get that second chance at the professional game. Super emotional. Honestly, I can go on and on about it, but for me, it was super emotional. I went with my kid and my wife. It was super cold. My kid was like super cold, and my wife too. So that was
the doing, Hadi. Why are you bringing us here?
Yeah, no. Honestly, my wife was very happy.
Good.
We'll talk about the game after, but like my wife was very happy, and no, honestly, she said like good. For her it was like. Okay, well, it's an historic moment. I'm like, yeah, it is an historic moment. And, having the little touch with the card, match inaugural match that you can keep as a keepsake, it's amazing. Having merch, I see the scarf that you have.
You added one,
Elias. Yeah, I have it too. I bought it too.
I had it for 2 whole episodes, and you guys said nothing.
I didn't see it.
That I'm not insulted.
I didn't see it. I bought it too. And I bought the. You can't see it. I bought also the cap. So yeah, I'm super happy. A historic day, and I was happy to be there.
Yeah. So guys, if you're impressed by Elias's background, make sure you comment on it and tell him how nice it looks that he has.
Where's the FC scarf? Okay, let's go.
We're almost done.
Yeah. You got jokes now, huh?
Hang with us, Hadi. We're almost done. All right. So, Elias, I'll tell you something because I watched the game from TV.
No, I'm on strike now.
He's no longer participating in the show.
The silent protest.
Look what you've done. All right, we got to finish this. So, it felt, when I was watching the game, it felt like it was a personal thing. You said it, Hadi. It was like literally outcasts of Montreal soccer that kind of joined 2 different teams. We can talk about Janelle Aniel SC. I don't want to say his name wrong, but there were a few players. Yeah, there were a few players there, and obviously the defender. I'm sorry, guys, but just watching it on TV, especially the defender, why am I Sergey? Forgetting his last.
Kozlowski.
It felt personal. This game was personal. It was. I'm not talking about a Toronto Montreal game. In the stands. I'm talking about on the field. You know how we've talked on this show several times about how maybe that rivalry between Toronto and Montreal is gone now on the field, not on the stands. This game felt like it was on the field, and not because they hate each other, because
No.
they just know each other so well. And you guys know this. You guys have all played soccer. You know that when you're playing against a person that you love from your childhood and all that you grew up with, you're gonna have a little bit of an edge and even some arguments. Even though at the end of the day you love
Of
each other and
course.
you're gonna go get a beer. You're gonna grab give each other hugs and all that. So did it feel like that's when you were there, like on ad sets? Did you feel a different kind of vibe on the field?
Not real. Like there were certain moments where in any professional soccer game it gets a little bit physical. Obviously, it's a contact sport, but there was no animosity, right? There's three. Like you look at Johnny Barutabla, you look at Sergei Kozlowski, who are two people that I think the Supra really wanted and will probably try and get again next season and the season after that, and will continuously try and bring on board. And they were both super important. I don't think they had the best game. I don't think Ottawa played well in general, but Ottawa also hasn't gotten off to that good of a start to the season. They were definitely second best, over 90 minutes for sure in the second half by far. But I think that in general, this was a really nice game. The Ottawa supporters traveled a long way.
Oh yeah, you
Um,
could hear them by the way on TV. Huh? You could
my
Oh
really hear
yeah,
them.
they
that
were really
that's my
loud.
be that's my biggest beef with. I don't know if it was Supra or Sepsum or who organized this, but why do you have your supporter section on the other side of the field, away
Yeah, I didn't
from
get
the
it.
majority of the fans and the cameras and the microphones,
Could really
and
hear
then
them.
you let
I didn't get it.
the Ottawa supporters have the best seats in the house for a supporter
I
section?
didn't get it. I didn't
That
get it.
made
Maybe
absolutely no sense to
because
me because
that's
it
I thought about it, Elias, and the only reason I found was that on the other side of the pitch, you're closer to the pitch.
doesn't matter.
So the players hear you a lot more because you're closer. You don't have, there you're not up there, right? You're just at pitch level. There.
But the thing is, it wasn't a huge difference. Like, yes, you're closer, but it's not like you know one is pitch side and the other one is 50 meters
Yeah.
away, right? We're talking about a
Yeah.
couple meters difference. I think for the overall atmosphere of the match, I barely heard the Ahmada on the other side, and they sounded good for bits and chunks. But even I texted you, right? I was like, "Can you wake them up?" Because on the other side, especially when you had a full support section right next to me, I didn't hear anything,
My son
right?
was complaining that they were yelling too it was too loud.
Love it.
And
I
that's the
was in the
thing, right? Because
supporter
I,
section,
I
and for
saw you. I
him
was
it was too
directly
loud, and
across.
I was
I
trying
was
to deal
Yeah,
with him. I wasn't able to yell with them because I was trying to deal with my son.
but I was directly across the field from them, so I could see that they were singing and they were chanting, and I could hear them. But when it comes to feeling it, right? I
Yeah,
felt the
for
Ottawa
sure.
fans much more because they were right next to me. So I think that again, I don't know if Halifax on Friday is going to send as many fans, just because it's just
Oh, it's a far
longer
drive.
travel time.
Yeah,
But I hope that they move the
Ottawa is
supporter
2 hours
section.
away.
yeah.
I hope they move the supporter section. I don't know if they will, but Stade Boreal is a different story. Obviously, that'll be much better placed. But I really found that they kind of missed the mark on that for sure.
You know what? What the best solution to that is give them the wrong address. No supporter section. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the lineup for FC Supra. And yeah, for their first home game. At goalie, we had Mr. Mili with the mustache. It stood out to me this time.
It's a
Charles
fantastic
Auguste, we had
mustache.
Ismail Yeo, Mathis Chrétien in the back line, Wanja on the left back. Surprising that Abdi was not there. And Hadi did something you pointed out to us before the game. Musa Sissoko. No. I messed that up. Sissoko
Abubakar
and
Sissoko.
Abu. Alessandro Biello on the midfield, Clement Bahia on the right wing, Sean Ray as a 10, David Chouanière on the left wing, and Lloyd Quemi on the top. Hey guys, I'm gonna say it right now, Lloyd Quemi does not belong in the CPL. And I mean that in the best way possible. He belongs in a higher league. This kid Maybe I
never
need.
did anymore.
I know you guys
Like
always say 10
like
games,
mine
10 games,
yesterday.
and that's very, very fair. He does need a lot more games. But so far, the 2 games that I've seen, I'm sorry, he makes some moves around defenders and midfielders that just doesn't feel like he's at the same level as them. So, anyways, what did you guys think of that lineup when you saw it? How did
Besides Diazin Abzi, who wasn't there because he's hurt, I wasn't too surprised. You know, this is the lineup that won you your first ever game. You stick with it. That's not really much of a shock
Yeah,
for
but
me.
does it surprise you in any way? Because you're like, do you look at it and you're like, oh no, but it works so well with Abzi. Why is he not there? Like, were you worried
Yeah,
in any
because he was
case
hurt.
about the results of the game
He's
with
injured.
that?
He's injured.
Oh, any concern? I thought that they were going to lose some offensive punch. Um, yeah, for sure, right? Because Wesley Wangji is good, but I mean, like Ziadin Abzi is one of the best left backs in the league automatically. So obviously you lose a step, but besides that, I wasn't too concerned because there's other players on this team that can hurt you, and they did.
Okay. Hadi, what did you think of the lineup when you saw it?
Um, no surprises except Abzia, and I directly texted Elias, and he said that he was injured. I didn't know that, but no surprises. Honestly, I was excited to see them play and to see that second game and
Mm.
see them in front of me because it's a different feel when you're in at the stadium. You see the game differently than when you watch it on TV. So uh, they looked good, man. They looked so good. I will talk about it.
Yeah, let's get right into it. So, thoughts on the game, Hadi? While you're at it, what were your thoughts on the
Oh my
overall of the
god,
game?
man. Oh my god. Honestly, it's so unfair that didn't win this game because for me they were the better team on the pitch and by far, and I'm not exaggerating. Like by far the better team. And even if they took a lot of chances and a lot of risks, with opening up a lot of pace behind the defense, I think the defense played very well to close up those gaps as much as they can. And of course, Midi made a couple of nice saves also that helped a lot. But I think it was a complete performance from everybody in the team. Yes, of course, Elias said it. Wanje is not Abzi for sure, but he did well. He did okay, right? Um, it's just so disappointing to see that team lose. I've yeah, the bar from Quemi, all the saves from Inosong on
What
the
a
other side.
Performance!
He
Jesus,
had maybe the game of his life, Song.
what a performance!
The game of his life. As simple as that. Kozlovsky, Cloutier, they had a lot of trouble containing those runs from Quemi, but also those dribbles from Rea, from Chouanier. When you were showing the lineup before, Andy, it's written that Chouanier had a 6.8
It's a
grade.
lie. Yeah.
He was awesome. And I saw him because he was like right in front of me, right? I was like sitting just in front of him, right? And all the plays that he made, in ah very, very, very good performance from everybody on that team. I was impressed by Mathis Chrétien also, even if he made a couple of mistakes, but overall impressed by the guy. Impressed. He was so dominant. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, everything cannot be perfect because this is how life is, right? And unfortunately, they lost the game. But if you were at the stadium,
You enjoyed it. You felt
you
happy.
enjoyed it, and you're like,
There's
nah,
something
I
here.
don't want to believe that we lost because
There's
we
something
didn't
here.
lose. We won. We won. We didn't
Yeah.
lose.
And look, I'll say this: I thought the game. Agree with you completely, Hadi, in that. But the first half was boring because Atletico was like, "Come here, guys, come here," and FC Super was like, "No, you come here." And then they were like, "No, you come here. No, you come here." And then they just kept like holding back what they were doing. That was the first half. Literally, the commentator I was listening to them say, they're like, the defenders had the most touches, and I think the forward had like two. Like it was ridiculous how they kept, and every time they tried, Atletico tried to move forward, FC Supra held them to midfield. They turned it over, but nothing came out of it. But then Atletico Ottawa got the ball back, and it just kept going playing. The second half, though, that was the real show. That's when both of them. It's like in a movie when the captain yells out attack, and everybody just went at each other because it was a completely different game where they, as you mentioned, there was there was blood, there was fights, there were arguments. I mean, that's when the show started, the second half. But the first half, I'm sorry, that wasn't a show. That was just two teams that were like, are you going to make the first move or are we going to make the first move? Who's making the first move here? Oh, whistle blown. That's it. First half done. So, anyways, Elias, what was your thought on the game?
Don't I agree with you in parts, but I don't fully agree with you on the first half for one simple reason. This is why I pointed this out to my brother. I love the Quebecois part of this club because almost every single one of those guys through semi-pro, university, cégep, anything have played at Sepsim before. Anyone who's been to Sepsim, forget played, knows how microscopic this field is. Yeah. It's built into a hillside. They don't have the freedom to build it as big as they wanted. It is a tiny field. It is an exceptionally narrow field. Now, at semi-pro, university, CJEP level, gaps exist because the players are not as good. But at the professional level, it's airtight. There's no space. And Supra, having played here, I feel navigated the lack of space in the first half much better because they were not almost taken aback by how squeezed in everybody is. When you saw them, right, they were in the most rigid, like you could see the lines. You could see the 4, the 2, the 3, the 1 when they were actually defending. And then they switched into a 5-back. It was like a 5-2-2-1 or whatever, or 5-2, whatever. That's not important, but like you could see the lines because they knew where they had to be because they've played at this field before. It's awesome. And I find that they had so much more success going forward, even in the first half, because of that comfort level in playing in those tight spaces. Now, what was the biggest problem with Supra, we said at the beginning of the season, that sticks out at you immediately? It was the lack of a striker. It was the lack of a 9.
But also I think the right back and the left back was...
I mean, I didn't hate Charles August's game. I think Wesley Wanje didn't have the best first half. I think he had a better second half. We talked about it. Right? We didn't love his first half. His second half, he stepped it up a lot. But again, Abdi's on that team, they win. They win this game,
100%.
for sure.
100%.
But the biggest problem here, we said it, right? They're going to be creating chances en masse. The problem is putting the ball in the back of the net. Right? Now, Louis Kwemi, who is an exceptional player, is not a proper 9.
Oh, he's gone.
Right.
Hi, Elias.
Finish it off. All right.
I'm back. Okay. My Wi-Fi just cut out for some reason. But what I'm saying is the lack of a number 9 finally hurt them.
Don't say
right?
it, Howdy.
I think Louis Kwemi is going to put himself in fantastic chances to score a bunch. He's going to score a bunch of goals, but it's a bit unfortunate in that case.
All right. So with that, we're just gonna kind of speed it up a little bit here, guys. So, who were your top performers of the game? I'll say mine. Alessandro Biello, 1000% was the top performer to me. I think he left bleeding on concussion protocol, but he was. I said it last week and last game. I felt he was actually the player that disappointed me the most because I thought he was slower. He didn't. His reaction was short. This time around, I felt like he played like to prove something. He wanted to prove that he was the heart of this team. I really felt that. I saw that he was very aggressive in duels and also did very well in transitioning the game. But unfortunately, hopefully it's not anything. He'll be back next week. But yeah, what about you, Hadi? What's your take on who was your top performer?
Louis Kwemi, no questions.
By far.
Oh man, what a player! What a player! Like the dribbles, the shots. The number of times in the middle of the park where he was able to just keep possession and make sure that the block will, take possession and take part in the offense. I think he was instrumental in that game on all aspects. The only thing that was missing was the goal. And he hit the bar, man. I can't believe it.
He's
Yeah,
different.
whatever.
He's
He hit
different.
the
He
bar.
should
Like
have squared it on that
this
play
should have
too.
been a
That's the worst
goal.
part.
What?
He should have squared the ball on that play too. It breaks my heart.
Man, but you know what? The shot was very hard.
The
to
shot
make,
was
right?
fantastic. The shot
But
was incredible.
like it's not an easy goal that he would have scored,
Yeah.
but that would have been like the goal
Yeah.
of the season, maybe. Like
Oh
that's
my
how
god! Yeah.
good it
The
was.
place would have exploded.
Yeah, exactly. Like I loved his game. I think he was out of
Elias,
this
who's
world.
your top performer?
Sean Rea. Oh my god. Sean
Yeah,
Rea
legit.
should have not could have Sean Rea should have had like 4 or 5 assists in that game.
Yeah,
The
Yeah.
chance creation, the way he turns everybody. This was the shot. This is the Sean Rea that won best under 23 player or best under 21 in the CPL 3 years ago. This is this version of Sean Rea is arguably the best player on the team. Better
He's
than
flying.
Kwame, better than David Chouanière, better than anybody. He is untouchable. And Sean Rea like this is the difference between them making the playoffs and them not making the playoffs. More than
100%.
Kwame, more than Chouanière, Biello. I give Biello a lot of shit last week because I didn't like his game. I agree with you, Andy. Unbelievable game today. He's a warrior. He won every duel. He was great. But Sean Rea on yesterday was one of the unspeakable things he did. He was so good.
I'll ask you one last question, guys. Who is it that because next week there's another game at Sepsum,
On Friday.
their second home game. Yes, this Friday. Who is someone that if they're going to start or play that you want to see more from on Friday? Elias, I'll start with you.
More from Clément Baya had a great game against Pacific. I didn't think he got involved enough against
Kozlowski killed him at one point.
Yeah,
like
yeah. And again, when you see how much joy Chouanière, again, Louis Kwame was coming to his side and taking the ball a lot, and he was also helping a lot with Charles Auguste defensively, so he had a lot more responsibility than David Chouanière did. But when you saw his game against Pacific, he was getting into those spaces.
Yeah.
He was getting in behind. He was great. Here, I feel like he was a bit more reserved. I'd love to see him kind of stamp his authority more, like we saw against Pacific, because he is that good. So I'd like to see that.
Hari, who are you expecting more from on Friday?
Sissoko.
I agree.
I think he was a good player, but I think he should dominate a bit more in the midfield. He's such a talented midfielder. I need to see him more. Now credit to Ottawa. Whenever Sissoko or Biello or the person I forgot the player that came in for Biello came in. Whenever they had the ball, there was a foul right away. And I think that the referee should have given yellow cards in the first half because it was happening over and over and over and over again. But still, a player from Sissoko's talent, I expect a bit more.
And experience more than anything.
Yeah.
Experience, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but talent also, not only experience. He's not just an experienced player. He's very talented.
He hasn't given me much to be impressed about the past 2 games, but maybe it'll change with time because everybody's also learning their teammates and learning what Nick Razagi expects from them. It's been a long show, but it's been a fantastic show. Shireen Ahmed to give us the preview for Roses FC because, guys, as of next week, we are covering 3 teams in one pod. It's about to get real, man, because we got to talk a lot of soccer. Guys, it's been so much fun tonight. Thank you to everyone who joined us tonight. We hope you loved the show. Hari, thank you so much for stopping by on such a loaded and important episode. And as always, The Ball is Round is completely free to watch and listen on all of our platforms. Don't forget to always to follow us on all of our social media platforms. You can follow my account, Elias's account, and Hattie. We have our hashtags under our names, as you can see. A huge shout out to everyone who joined Patreon this week and every other social media that we have. You guys are legends. And for everyone who tuned in tonight, thanks for sticking with us. Make sure to join us next week for episode 260. Quebec soccer, Canadian soccer. There's just too much to list, but you already know the drill. Don't miss it. See you next week.
Libéralo,